So, a couple of people have asked for a tutorial on the Promises cover that I did, as well as the Scary Monsters one, and so I did the Scary Monsters one, but I sort of took a long time getting around to doing this one. I'm finally back home with my own personal piano again, which is nice, and so sorry that took so long, but yeah, this will be the Promises cover, and I guess because of where I'm recording from, it'll be a little difficult to see notes themselves, but I'll do my best to explain everything easily. So the Promises cover actually is probably simpler than the Scary Monsters one, mostly because you're using a lot of the same chords, and the dubstep part really isn't that difficult either. But as far as how you go about doing that part, it's probably completely up to you because it's so open-ended doing it on a piano because it'll never be exact anyway. So it's open to interpretation. But in any case, there's the introduction to the song with the lyrics and everything. So I'll just get right into explaining how to do that. You'll be starting the song on with F major, and that's where it's like you got me so high, etc., etc. This, by the way, is obviously the Skrillex remix. I don't know how to play the original song by itself, but it seems like most people don't even listen to the original song anyway. So I'll just start with the left hand first. In the verses that you'll be playing, the left hand is very simple, just chords, and all you really need to do is F, A minor, D minor, and then A minor, and then it repeats. So, and then on the right hand you'll be doing the vocals, which I'm refusing to sing, so... and you'll stop there. So that's it together. And then it goes into the chorus next, but that's slightly different, so I'll continue explaining this first part. So as I already explained, the left hand is F, A minor, D minor, A minor, and it repeats those chords. The right hand, however, which starts with the "You've Got Me So High" line. So you have your F major chord. So you're starting on C, and I'll just read notes. So C, C, A, G, G. A 3 times, G twice, F twice. So. And then you're going to the D minor on your left hand. And back on the right hand, C, C, A, G, G, and then to A minor, left hand, F, A, G, G, F, F. So that was... And then to the and you keep telling me. So starting back at C. So it's the same as it was before, so you can look back. It's just C, C, A, G, G. So 3 A's, 2 G's, 2 F's. So then F, F, A, A, think I explained that right. So just as a recap, you're doing. Actually, here, I think I might have passed by this on the tutorial. When you're switching on this verse that we just got to D minor on the left hand, you actually jump down to C, which I think the line is, and you'll never leave my side or something, and you're never gonna leave my side. So, and then D minor on the left hand, jump down to C. So that's C, C, A, G, G, F, F. So, and then back to C. So then C, A, G, G, F. And then that's when you start with the F again, but that's where it goes into the chorus. So that's the second part. If you're working on the verses, this is where you could look back and everything. So I'm going to play through the entire verse part together with both hands, and when you're doing that, you can check if it sounds like how this is. If you have good, like, I guess just music, like hearing, you can figure out whether or not what you're playing sounds like this. But here's the verse, and then I'm going to jump into explaining the chorus. Or rather, I'll play the verse through to the chorus, and then explain the chorus after. So. Okay, the chorus is even simpler. You start on F, just like in the verses, and you're starting with C on your right hand. And an interesting, I think, part of the song is that instead of, you sort of need to build up, as obviously this is a dubstep song, so a lot of the focus and a lot of the intro's purpose is to build up the song and sort of like build that energy. So you will actually be playing the left hand slightly differently than you end up doing as you continue doing the chorus, because it does repeat itself multiple times, and as it repeats, the energy builds up, and that sort of affects how you end up playing it. The overall chord progression, though, is exactly the same. And so what I mean by that is when you start playing notice that the breaks in between chords are all even except for the first one. So you're starting with this F, and then there's a longer pause before you play A minor, G major, and then back to F. The reason for that being is there's actually a G major in between, which you will not be playing until the chorus starts to pick up and be a little more exciting. So the way that that works is, it's easier to explain with also the right hand going. So for the right hand part, you are now starting on C. So that's C, A, D, C, D, E, 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 C, D, C, A, G, C, A, And so I think that's really all you need to do. Yeah, and it doesn't change. So now to sort of explain how that fits in. Oops. There's this pause. So there's... So you're neglecting to play the first G. So the chord progression of the chorus is more simply F, G, A minor, G, F. So just up and then back down. However, when you first play it, you're skipping that first G. So there's that pause in between. However, once the chorus builds up, you will be playing the G. So... An example of what I'm actually talking about, so if you're not following completely, is here's the chorus with the G included. So as you notice, it's a lot more, well, that's also because I played it faster and repeated the chords, but also that's how it would be just simply played through. The G would be played when you're playing that D in the right hand, which is at the end of the promises word. So that's how you play the chorus. An interesting way to make this build up seem a lot more natural, because as I mentioned, that's an important part of the song. You're starting with the... And you can go into doing intervals. For example, you would just be playing the... So whenever I do intervals, I typically also include the 8 note, which would just be the octave. So for example, instead of playing like just the chord itself, fragmented in intervals, I also play the first note of the same chord if you were to be playing it an octave higher. So that would be the 8 in this chord. So you can do whichever, but that is also a very helpful way to build up while you're doing the repetition of the chorus. So as I typically like to do, then I go back into chords, but then also repeat them, so the left hand becomes a lot more active. You can speed up the chorus, or rather everything you're playing, just overall. Thing that I do, obviously a lot of this is open for interpretation, but right before I go into the last run of the chorus, which then obviously goes into the drop quite suddenly, I do more of a build-up with the repeated chords on the left hand, and these just sort of like thirds that I'm playing, or minor thirds, I guess they are, on the right hand. So I actually don't change it at all. So it's literally just A and C repeated. So the way that I sort of go into that is typically I play the intervals. So like, that repeats a couple times, and then eventually I transition into the repeated chords. Obviously, that would be repeated a couple more times, but then I switch into, and it's honestly just C and A repeated over and over, and then you continue to play the left-hand chords as you would normally. Getting to the A minor, so then right before you're about to hit the A minor, you're going back to the chorus line itself, and they still feel also wasted on myself, so that wasn't supposed to rhyme. Which is C, D, E, 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 C, D, C, A, G, C, A. So then that's the last thing you will play right there. So oh, I messed up right there. Whoop. And then that goes into the drop. So that was basically what all of that sort of energy buildup during the chorus was for. The drop is actually not as difficult to explain, I don't think. So you're going to be using the same set of chords that you already have been using. It's a little bit trickier to explain the notes themselves, as it's kind of just, you're just sort of doing sounds. So with dubstep, it's going to be very difficult to find the exact notes for everything that you are hearing. But how I tended to do this was the left hand, I am again playing with the 8th note added. So instead of, there's that added in up high at the same time. So, and how I typically do this is I will play the first note of the chord, and this is for the left hand. I play the first note of the chord on the left hand, and then the rest of the chord is added in. But you don't need to play the first note of the chord again, because you already have another one added in as the 8th note, so it's on the bottom. So yeah, so you'll be playing very simply just over and over, and that's A minor, F major, G major, in the way that I just described that. The right hand is a little trickier. So essentially just how I played the dubstep part, essentially entirely. There is very little variation from that. It's a lot of repetition, and then you can just find some like clever way to jump back into the verse, and then do the same sort of build up, and go back into another drop. So I guess the easiest way I could explain the right hand, now that I've already sort of explained the left hand, which I guess I neglected to mention, you're playing the A more than once. So there's the original chord, so you end up essentially playing the A minor twice. But, you know, that doesn't matter. So on the right hand, you're sort of waiting for that first, like, and then a lot of the right hand just consists of fifths. So what you'll be doing is, so you're starting with, and then A and E played together as fifths. So what you're doing here is just that A and E, and then A and F, and then back to E, and then playing that lower A just by itself. And then by this time, your left hand will be switching to the F major chord, which then your right hand also does. Alright, so F chord. So when you're playing this part, you will also be playing F and C together as fifths on your right hand. So and then the same thing goes with that G, but you repeat the G multiple times. So 3 times. After you've done that a couple times, you need to vary it up, and you also have to add in that, and they still feel also wasted on myself, line that gets thrown back in even during the dubstep part. So you'll play the A minor part normally like you would, and then you play the and they still feel also wasted on myself line exactly as you did earlier in the song. The notes on that, that's later back. But you will be playing that with the F and the G chord as you were playing it normally in the dubstep part. So, how that sounds is... Right. That last A was if you were going to continue, obviously. But other than that, you really don't change much. Just for the right hand, all you really need to know is that you will be doing fifths primarily. So A and E, F and C, and G and D. And just repeat that, and at some point you'll be going back into the verses, which obviously you'll be doing the chord progressions that I explained in the very, very first section, which then transitions into the chorus build-up, and then back into a second drop. I personally don't change how I play the dubstep on the second drop or very much during the first drop either, so obviously a lot of this isn't up to interpretation, but those are all the pieces I think that you would need to be able to play Promises, and your own embellishments and such can be added in after. So just as a wrap-up, I'm going to play through to the first drop, as well as that part, and hopefully if you've gone through the tutorial, you can see if what you're playing sounds somewhat like this. And obviously nothing needs to be exact, because I learned all of this by ear, so I don't think that, you know, it's not perfect. There's probably other ways you can do this, and that's perfectly fine, but here we go. Yeah, so it should be around something like that. So I guess that's it. Thanks for watching, and I hope that helped.